All right, and we're back. Okay, so welcome to the Shop Class Podcast. It's basically a meeting roundtable with all the shop teachers that would like to join in. Tonight we have a special guest, Brant Taylor. Brant's coming to us from Nashville, Tennessee, and he is known as the Tool Hacker. Brant, welcome to the show.
Hack the planet, gentlemen.
So Brant, let's start out with we got some exciting stuff that you're going to talk about. You are the tool hacker, so you've come up with some nice inventions that we're going to display and talk about, but mostly about your path and your journey. But the first question I always ask every guest is, did you have shop class growing up?
I had shop class every day that I went home. We were always working on a craft of some sort at the house. My dad's a preacher, and so we grew up traveling quite a bit and moving quite a bit. So there was always a wall to build or a room to split into two or something along those lines. So carpentry was in the blood from a very early age, and we could never afford a really nice car growing up. So mechanics were in the blood from an early age as well. And so ever since I've been alive, I've just known how to build and fix things. It's just second nature.
Nice. And what is your current position here? Like, what are you up to now? Like, so you've got this a device you're going to show us that I'm very interested in.
Sure.
And we hear about, so how did you get started? Let's go there, because you kind of said that before we got the recording going, but I think the audience should know.
Sure. I have a natural affinity for cars, and so it was a path that I naturally chose. After I graduated college, I just didn't want to do anything else. I wanted to work with cars, and so I did that for about 20 years, and I worked all different facets of the automotive industry, in the auction life and in mechanic service. I owned a couple of shops through the years. I've spent a good portion of my career training young people either how to work on cars or how to work on houses. For the last almost decade, I've been in construction now. I left automotive primarily because I felt like the lessons I learned there could help other industries. And if other industries could learn to hack their own tooling and hack their own systems, we saw quite a bit of improvement in automotive while I was there. And I think that construction can benefit from some of the same practices. So
now, when you say tool hacker, what does that mean?
Well, what it means to me is anytime you're in a situation, especially on a job site, and you don't have the Dubus or the Flonison or the whatnot that you need, you're either building a jig or you're making something from scratch. If we've got a big problem to solve, and oftentimes on job sites we do, we need to come up with something. We are expert problem solvers. And so the natural ability for us, we don't ever think of the things we do every day as a tool hack. But the truth is, the people who work in the skilled trades, they live daily at the event horizon of the most innovation. They are the most inventive group I've ever encountered. They're all inventors. They're all creators. And to some degree, when you don't have the thing you need, you've got to find a way to hack it. So you are hacking a tool of some sort. And many of the builders I've ever met are all tool hackers.
You know, it's funny. I just a little comment about the garage space and hackers and stuff like that is that I think that people forget the roots of innovation. You know, when they talk about Apple, people think about Apple now, but actually Apple was Steve Wozniak and Jobs. Jobs was like interested in how to market it, but Wozniak was actually a computer hacker, and him and his buddies would get together. And they actually, the first Apple one, I learned this recently, was actually a open sourced chip configuration that Wozniak figured out. Yep. And then he was like, okay, I think people like this. So they started making kits. And then the kits were not enough. People were like, just make it a thing. And they were like, all right, fine, we'll make a closing for it. And then they got funding based on the interest, which brought them to the Apple II, which I had as a kid. Not knowing that the Apple I was open sourced. You know,
what you're pointing to is a lot of the collision points between innovation and commercialization. And the world is now telling us that any idea that somebody has to craft something or create something that solves a specific problem, They're telling us based on a consumerist model that it has to be easily packaged, it has to be easily marketable, that it has to be a certain price point. You'll get this advice from strangers about that you've never asked for anything. But if you tell them you've got an idea for something, they're so eager to criticize. They want you to go on Shark Tank right then and there in front of them, and they want to be the Shark Tank judge right then and there. And
Yeah.
it's just not how ideas work at all. It's just how ideas work inside of our economy. And they work very poorly. The truth is that we all have a lot of great ideas that could really help elevate society and really help make life easier for a lot of people, except that when you try to funnel it through the patent and proprietary system and the protections and all of those things, 80% of the ideas get lost amongst the shuffle. And so society as a whole is the big loser in that equation. We don't, I'm going to stop quoting TV names at some point now, but we're all the big losers in that part of the equation because the ideas get lost and the person who had the idea had that one thing. And we've all met a burned out inventor. All of us have met somebody who had that one thing at one point. Some of you may have had one yourself, and it's a heartbreaking thing to have that and then to lose that. And so with that being my own greatest fear as I started approaching the field of inventing 5 years ago, I just decided I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to make all my ideas open source right out of the gate. Don't care how that rolls, don't care what that does. But for me personally, I'm not going to live bound by the fears and constraints of what might happen. And instead, I'm going to lean into what could happen. And so far, gentlemen, it's been a beautiful, beautiful ride.
Wow, interesting. So, you're not the only one who I've seen mention this. Have you ever heard of Adafruit?
Not familiar.
They make chips and a lot of Arduino. They're an authorized Arduino manufacturer, and what they decided to do from the beginning was just open source everything. And the woman who owns it said that they're going to come to us anyway because we're going to make it cheaper. Not cheaper, but like we're the ones who packaged it. So you might as well buy it from us. If you'd like to make it yourself, here are the plans. We're an open book, and all it does is encourage people to make more ideas. And, people aren't manufacturers. They just want to get the thing to work. So,
Sure.
So if they offer the manufacturing of it, and then they grew anyway, because it's a community you're building and not so much like trying to protect one idea.
Right.
Yeah.
And what if your thing is just ideas? What if that's the craft that you decide to shape after a while? What if it's your medium, just like a woodworker uses wood? What if ideas are the thing that you love to sand and shape and chisel away at and to craft after a while? It's a beautiful thing when you have an idea yourself and then you can inspire someone else with that idea that inspires them to have their own idea. And then you start to form ideas together. That energy can grow very, very quickly. It doesn't necessarily fit into the economy, and it certainly doesn't make economical sense for me. But it's a sweet spot, and I want to stay here. I precursor the conversation with that because the things I'm going to show you, the inventions that I'll share with you tonight, none of them are practical. Financially, none of them are practical. So people ask me about, oh, hey, that looks neat. How do I get my hands on that? And I go, well, if you really want it, that's a lot of money because it takes hours and hours and hours to build, and you have to buy all these different components for it. People have this idea and expectation that if it's an idea or an invention, if it doesn't cost $150 or less, it's useless. And that's so far from the truth. Many of the tools that we have in our arsenal as contractors and builders and mechanics, even some of those tools just by themselves are thousands of dollars just to do the one thing you need done 10 times a year. And so we, more than any other industry, I feel like we should be used to that and expect that by now. So if I invented a water logistics solution for tile setters, then they would expect that, okay, look, it's a plastic bucket. A bucket costs $4 at the store. Well, my bucket costs like $1,100. And people were like, you want $1,000 for a bucket? And I'm like, well, no, I don't want it to be that way. It's just how it is for now. Because these things don't necessarily fit into practicality. So many people give up on their ideas just because they cost a little bit much. But I can tell you this, after 5 years of doing this and staying at it, if you just keep going, all of that gets better. All of that improves, and ideas over time take shape just like a craft. Ideas are like rough framing in a construction project. There's only a handful of the population who are going to walk up to a rough frame structure and go, wow, how will you look at that? There's only a handful of people who are amazed by it. But virtually anybody would want to buy the house after it's all finished. Our ideas are the same thing. They're rough framing. There's only a few people who will appreciate them when they're in the early rough stages, like most of my inventions are. But if you let it build out and you just keep polishing it and you keep going through the process and you add the plumbing and you add the wiring and then you sand the surfaces and then you paint everything, by the time you take that final rag wipe off, it's just as much satisfaction as building a house, if not more. And it's appreciated by more people. But you got to keep going. There's a whole lot of hours to get there. So I'm still in the rough framing with a lot of the things you'll see tonight, including this mobile workshop. I'm in the rough framing stage for a lot of these ideas. But boy, if I just keep going, I want to invite the whole construction community, all the shop teachers especially, those folks who are central to education for our next generation of tradesmen. I want to invite all the people to that design process. Not that design by committee is always a great thing, but the sharing of ideas can be wicked powerful. And so far, it's just been me and a handful of folks. And the more people that get involved in that, the more beautiful this craft becomes. So I'm just going to keep going until it's no longer.
This is very inspiring. I'm super excited. Very well spoken about this. Excellent metaphor about your craft. Your ideas could be the medium. You're in this trailer that we want to talk about, and we got all these ideas we want to get to. But what's interesting is that we also have Winston joining us. Thanks a lot. How you doing? Okay, cool. So Brant, as far as like open source goes, like for instance, you had this the brain bucket, which we're going to get to, right? But already right away, Matt had mentioned it, and I thought right away, I said, wow, I want to add an idea to that. I don't want to produce it. I just thought, hey, what about this? Because we do, welding in the classroom. And so like you said, it was kind of an open source bouncing ideas around. And so we'll get to that. And then the other one was this trailer clearly Matt is excited about this. I want to see what's going on here. So, all right. So you want to give us like a tour of what's going on in there, and then we'll get to
the tour. All right.
Let me ask you a question. Do you want to do the tour, or do you want to talk about the some of the objects you come up with?
Oh, I don't care. We can roll either way you want. I mean,
all right, let's do the tour. Let's do the tour.
Direction is its own little rabbit hole, and you can go as far into Wonderland as you want. We can.
All right, let's go to Wonderland. Let's go to
if you want to. And I know everybody's got an evening to get back to, and time. I don't know what kind of time you've got tonight.
No, this is it. This is what we do. We go from 8 to 10 Wednesdays. This is
Well, shall we hang out then, boys? Shall we hang out?
Winston's
we
joining us.
go until the wiser kids tell us we have to get off. Go to bed.
Yeah, we're here to hang out. This is good. We want to share. This is the Sharing Idea podcast, basically.
Well, great.
Yeah. So
let's do a trailer tour first, and
right.
I'll show you some of the systems that help support these inventions. And the way that this all unfolded was the inventions were first. The trailer was built to make it possible for me to continue researching the construction job site and at the same time be able to build any one of the things that I'll show you tonight, so that I didn't have to choose between being a contractor or being an inventor. I wanted to be able to do both of them. But in the process, what I discovered was that I didn't want to just build stuff. I'd done plenty of that, and I kind of got my fill of just building stuff. I wanted to see a different level of the build. I wanted to start to research the processes behind the choices that we're forced to make on the job site. So that's where a lot of the invention ideas come from, is I kind of see what's missing from the process, and then I back it up a couple steps and go, maybe if we added this here, we'd get to somewhere different. So all of that'll make sense in a little bit.
I get it. I like it. You're picking out a problem and you're trying to solve it.
Right.
And then also, instead of you're making an R&D lab, basically, in a way.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It's a mobile prototype studio. It's a mobile construction studio. It's a mobile video editing I mean, we could do all kinds of things in here. There's
And is it a trailer or is it a vehicle?
it is a trailer. It's a 20-foot enclosed V-nose trailer. So it's 8 foot wide. It's big for a job site, but it fits in most driveways.
Okay. All right.
So
I think I have a inside photo of it, but better would be the tour. But I'll just give people a little context from your Instagram. Is this the right one?
oh, well, that's trailer 1.0. This goes back to the very early days. So when I first started in construction back in 2013, this was the first trailer that I built out. This is a 12-foot V-nose enclosed trailer, and I was able to do all kinds of different. This is where I cut my teeth basically as a builder, with some of the job site work that I produced. Let me see if I've got a sample of one of the projects I did. See if I can turn this around. You guys see that screen okay? Here.
Yeah.
All right, so let's shut that one down. There we go. So this is some of the projects that I built out of that small V-nose trailer. Now that's a disappearing camouflage trap door that's in a custom kitchen. These are all custom cabinets. Those custom windows I built myself. And that trap door disappears when it closes.
Wow.
So I built that kind of thing out of that small 12-foot trailer, and that was a lot to do in such a tiny space. Can you flip back to that picture? Do you mind? I'll give you a couple of key points that lessons learned, and then these.
This one?
So customers were pretty impressed with this trailer. They used to call it the rolling Home Depot. And that was way back when, but I was just bringing some very basic organization. My competitors were digging in a truck bed for all of their tools, or they were bringing a lawnmower trailer with a couple of Husky toolboxes. And so this was like highly organized to those people. To me, what I found was that those bins created so much chaos. Now, it was a system, but it was a system only I really understood and knew how to use. So I knew where everything was at, but then when I had to get somebody else to know where everything was at, there was a big breakdown there. I couldn't really direct the workers to figure out where the stuff was at. So I ended like calling it by shelf, and it'd be like, okay, it's on the second shelf, it's the third tote from the right. And then they'd pull it out and they'd look at all the stuff they'd have to dig through. They'd still have to like search through and pilfer through. And so it kind of defeated the purpose. So then when it came time for cleaning, if somebody put something back in the wrong place, it's like, now there's no room for the thing that's supposed to go. This is a critical thing for all of us, right? Everybody looking at this is going, this looks nice compared to what we normally do. But that's where I'm going to drive down with this trailer tour, is that if you keep going, this is the rough framing idea. This is the rough in stage. You're going to see what it looks like after drywall's up. It's still not finished. It's still a work in progress, but you're going to see everything after it really has started to take shape. So let's dig in.
Yeah, let's do it. I like this. Okay, so first up, I'll show you that we've got the place where I'm sitting this is the command station. I'm gonna see if I can make because I'm doing this on my phone. I tried to do a webcam thing, but that's not gonna work out. This is
make my
good.
picture any bigger, so you may not get a great shot. So this is the command center. This is where all the computing takes place. This is where all of our video editing takes place. The data center is multi-stage. We've got, hey, don't put a water bottle on your computer. That's a good idea. So I've got a couple of different places for data input. I've got these SD card docks that accept the footage files from the Brain Bucket. I'll dig into that in a bit. I got a couple of external hard drives. We've got 27 terabytes of storage on board, and there's a reason for that we'll dig into. But just to kind of give you a general overview, the laptop stays in here. This is on a drawer that does slide out. I keep it locked in place because it doesn't really need to slide out unless we're doing some maintenance for the wiring or anything like that. I've got a switch for the lights here so that if I want to work close to the computer, that I don't have to fight with glare for. So we've driven down to some layers of detail here. But the reason why I have a mixer board in here is because of the way that the brain bucket communicates with this trailer system. And this workstation was designed for what I'm calling an operator. So I know that this sounds very matrixy when I'm talking about hackers and operators and things of that nature, but literally what we're trying to do is hack the construction code. We're trying to identify the most efficient workflow processes that there are, and we're trying to invent tools to fill in the gap where the industry falls short. So the title Tool Hacker is not just to be cute. We're literally trying to hack these different processes to make these things easier for your students and for the generations to follow them. So we use the information that comes in through here, and through all the things that we capture inside of our brain bucket, we wear these helmets daily on the job site. And these helmets are capturing footage of the build process.
Oh, wait.
So
Okay.
everything
So hold on. I don't mean to interrupt you. This is just amazing. So I don't think people understand, the audience, yet, that the brain bucket has a camera and voice, and you're in the center of this keyboard area, and it's all being linked back to that.
Yes.
Oh my God, this is awesome. All right, please.
So
I
the
didn't mean to.
brain bucket system, I tell you what we'll do first. We'll watch the infomercial for the brain bucket, and that will help to cue in on how that'll help to cue in on what's what.
We can't hear the sound, but you could talk over it to explain it.
Okay, cool. So good. The music is a bit distracting. The concept here was that I kept finding that the processes would break down, because if I had to make a special cut, I'd have to stop and find the safety glasses, because none of us wear them all day, every day. You might have to in your shop class, and it's a good thing to encourage to your students. But unless you have that muscle memory, you're not wearing safety glasses nonstop all day, every day. So when it comes time to make that dangerous cut, which all of us have to, we got to stop and find the one pair of safety glasses that's rattling around the back of the pickup truck that's clean. So then we get the safety glasses. Well, then we start the cut, and it's too loud for us. So we're frustrated by that point, and then we're either doing one of two things. We're either gritting and grinding our teeth, or leaning one ear to the side, or we're doing something to try and get through the cut. And really what we really need is a good pair of earphones and a good pair of eye protection all the time. But if you put on the earphones, then you can't hear the people around you. And it's just this hustle. It's this jumble all the time, and you're fiddling for stuff, and you're trying to find stuff. And when was the last time the last guy who had the pair of safety glasses, what did he do? He laid it down after his cut. He took them off after the cut, and he laid them right next to the saw. So then they got sawdust on them. Now they're dirty again. It's constant hustle. So when we actually started analyzing the data of what our daily way of life looked like on the job site, we found that we were spending hours and hours after these little incidences. They aggregate over the course of a week or a month or a year. We're spending hours and hours looking for the safety glasses, or looking for the earmuffs, or looking for the one thing. So I eventually just got tired of the fumble, and I said, okay, let me put it all into one place. So I started toying around with helmets this past fall. I guess it's been a year ago now that I've been working with helmets. And so when I did it right away, I was like, I want an earmuff, but I need something where I can hear the rest of my crew. So we bought a set of, I'm not taking you up to the upper shop. It's too dirty to even show another human being right now. But we bought a set of Senna earmuffs, motorcycle earmuffs.
Wait, there's an upper part of the trailer?
Oh yeah, there are layers to this onion. Hey, Mark Willie. What's up, brother? Good
All right. Willie's here. Nice. Okay.
So yeah, there are many layers to the onion. But a year ago I started experimenting with the Senna motorcycle earmuffs.
My head is exploding, so peel the onion slow. This is nuts.
It was a breakthrough, just being communicated to everybody at the same time on the job site. It was a critical breakthrough. We were running a 4-man crew, and the fact that we never had to yell for each other ever again, right then and there was an immediate culture change. And I get chills when I talk about it. It seems silly, but the moment when we realized like that our daily way of life didn't have to have noise in it, that we didn't have to shout anymore, that takes the temperature in construction way, way down. And that changes your environment, and it changes your attitude, and it changes your approach. And then what you find by lunchtime is that you don't feel the same degrees of fatigue. By the end of dinner, you don't feel the same types of exhaustion. You've taken away an element where your hearing is strained. You've taken away an element where you have to shout for somebody. And every time you have to shout for somebody, either they feel a little bit devalued or you feel a little bit devalued. Because why? Because we're not meant to yell all day long. But on a construction site, man, we are all just yelling at the top of our lungs. And then what? We're chasing people most of the day. We yell for somebody and then they walk off and then they don't hear us until they come back. And then we're yelling instructions and we don't know if they heard us for sure. So a year ago, we stopped doing all of that and we started wearing these earmuffs and communicators. After that,
I can relate because
I think everybody in this thing can really relate to that.
Yeah, it's not just in the field, but in the high school. Honestly, I can't listen to the bells and the kids screaming and the shop noise. Like, it's too much sometimes. Right. It would be nice if I could muffle some of that, but only hear the critical stuff. This is very interesting.
Oh, hey, Brant, don't forget the next thing we're going to invent is for parents at home with all their kids have their ear pop buds in their ear so we can communicate to our children when we're trying to holler that it's time to come eat and they can't hear you 2 rooms over because their earbuds are in their ear. And we went through that tonight. It's everywhere. You're saving the world, Brant.
A friend of mine tried to design an app last year called Master Frequency that was an app for a parent's phone that allowed you to push a button and have an intercom that broadcasts to all of the devices at the same time. So I don't know where he's at with it. I haven't talked to him in a while. We've both been pretty busy, but Master Frequency, it probably needs a new name, but
I'll be
I keep a blowhorn. I got a blowhorn in my classroom for my 9th period. Yeah, because I got freshmen, and there's like 23 of them or something, and it's like they're screaming all the time. So I used to be like, all right. Now I'm just like, hold on, boop. I like listen up, and they're right away. I don't use it once I got their attention, but I don't bother screaming over them now. It's just not worth it.
It's not worth it, but I want you to think for just a moment, and the rest of the shop teachers as well, think for just a moment about how much quality communication time you can muster in your class sessions just because of the noise factor alone. You're either waiting for someone else to stop talking or you got to get the whole group quiet. You got to stop all the tools so you can have a teaching moment, right? And that's really the thing, a teaching moment. We should have a teaching experience. We should have a teaching environment, right? We shouldn't have teaching moments, especially in a class setting. So when you take somebody's head and you put their brain in a bucket, you literally you have a captive environment for them. They can only hear the sound of your voice. I'll show you something.
Matt, you told me this was going to be good. And this blew my expectations. This is so awesome already.
Dude, we haven't even gotten into the good stuff.
Brant, you are amazing.
Brant's just teasing you guys right now. This is foreplay.
This is great.
No, the truth is, I'm really just teasing Mark Willie because I've got the biggest mic drop of the evening for him at the very end of this. Stay tuned, Mark. You're not going to want to go anywhere. This is good. So the brain bucket has a couple of different options for it, but this is one that's got the version with the actual IsoTunes Aware headphones on it. And the IsoTunes Aware, this gives you the opportunity to hear your class environment, even for people who aren't inside the brain bucket. But when you have the control of the volume over the ambient environment, you can turn up and turn down your shop class environment. But then you could also tune down the environment altogether and just hear your shop teacher.
I want this thing.
All of these are able to communicate with each other. So every one of them is brought together by this Meshport Blue. This is able to handle hundreds of different people at the same time. It can span a 3-mile radius. But the main thing is that it's super easy to join. Any of your kids who have a set of Apple EarPods, They can connect to this with the push of one button. So even if they're not in a brain bucket, if you want to have a captive class session, all you need are a set of these Senna communicators. And then you can have unfettered, complete environmental control inside the student's ear. So even while they're cutting something, even while they're hammering something, even while they're drilling something, even while they are in the process of doing those things, they have the ability to hear you coach the cut. Now compare that to how we're currently having to teach.
My head's exploding right now because all the students have earbuds,
Right.
and I have no access to them. Not that I want control. I'm just saying, if I said, hey, guys, tune to this frequency, and I can guide you as you're welding, they would totally do it. They would absolutely do it.
And that's a key point to make about the next generation and how they want to work on a job site. The next generation does not want to come to a construction job site and be thrown to the wolves. This is the terminology of our industry. This is our core culture. These are the words that we say, right? They don't want to be thrown into the fire. The new generations of workers, they want to make informed moves and informed decisions. They want to have a little bit of education first about what it is they're about to do. And when they have too many questions, what typically happens to them on a job site? You're going to go unload that drywall. You're going to go push that broom. You're going to go shovel this or move this pile of plywood. We give them the skill. We give them the tasks with the least amount of skill and the maximum amount of boredom. And then we all scratch our heads and go, why can't we keep young talent? Why can't we retain people in the trades? It's because we're not engaging their brain in a captive experience. And we're also competing against higher levels of bandwidth. The new generation of children coming out are 5G wired. Their bandwidth, their attention span is critically shorter than how it was for you and I growing up. Because what? Most of the people in this room, 40 or over, raise your hand. Most of the people in this room had to get up to turn the channel on the TV when we were kids, right? Right. So that being the case, our bandwidth for our ability to pay attention now as adults, we're able to have conversations like this. Look, we're all hanging out on a meeting tonight. We've got the bandwidth to have these kinds of conversations. We have to add something to the formula if we're going to compete with the new generation's upgraded 5G bandwidth. We've got to put them into a captive environment where we're the only thing that they can hear. Hello, you're on the Shop Teacher podcast this evening, right? We've got to control the frequency, right? So if we control
this
the
is
channel,
amazing.
then we can really tune into what the educational environment could take shape and could be for these kids, but not just in your classroom. If we put brain buckets on the job site for them after they get out of school. See, I'm excited about this technology for two reasons. One, it sends a big signal to the next generation that, hey, we hear you. We are working on tech that can make your life easier for when you transition out into the field. But if we bring brain buckets to the field after that, then the next generation has the opportunity to own that experience as they introduce it to the old school, to the prevailing class, right? So the next generation of workers really has a great opportunity to grab hold of something from a tech perspective and say, this is what we brought to the industry. So this is where we can make that happen.
Yeah.
You know what? I do have one surprise that no. I'm gonna wait on that one. So
well, I was just gonna say, yeah, go ahead.
Look, so
I was just gonna say that like even on just a practical level, like this is very good. Even on a practical level, I would have to stand over a student to get them to see what they're doing, or other kids in the room. They're not going to really get to see. They're not going to be a part of it. It's kind of hard. Very old school, helping 2 or 3 kids at a time. But when you got 20 kids in a room, or more importantly, if you're on a job site, the job site is definitely like an environment where, like, if guys on the other side of the house, or you're backing up a truck or whatever, hey, Jimmy, this and that, you don't have to do that anymore, or at least minimize that, so I could see what's going on there.
Job site can operate like a hive mind. And it's one of my favorite quotes by Mike Gerton is, none of us are as smart as all of us. If you got 4 bodies on a job site and you're all connected through that communication network, now you're as smart as all of us. And it's no longer just up to the one person who has all the skill on the site. Same thing can happen in the classroom. The shop teacher can scale their expertise to be able to coach students through the move. Let's mention the camera for a minute. What would it mean to your students to have camera footage of their own hands-on work to review from the first person point of view after the fact? If they had a failure that day or if they had a success that day. Now they got a video they can show their parents when they get home. This is what I built in school today, right? What would that kind of information mean emotionally to a kid making memories ingrained, puns intended, all the puns are always intended, just as a blanket disclosure. Just what would it mean to that kid to be able to then take that footage and either post it to their own social, this is what I built today, or to have that failure moment to then look back on it and see that as an instant replay. Just for a quick second.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to just add this little adage.
Yeah, please.
Consider for yourself what would happen if football never developed the instant replay. They'd still be wearing leather helmets. They'd never have discovered it'd be so primitive. It'd be much, much less evolved. I'm just trying to create and invent the instant replay for the contractor or for the shop class student so that they can not only see their failures, but they can also record and amplify and share their successes ostensibly with the whole world.
I love it. I wanted to add something, but before I do that, Mark's got his hand up there. Go ahead, Mark.
I like how this affects the underdog, right? Because at times, like confessionally, like there's a student in the room that's staring at the stars, right? And in probably our generation, you heard that. And I remember being smacked on the head and said, stop staring at the stars, right? And if you could be that voice, like you're saying, and be the support system to that person without the embarrassment issue that's really going to drag them to the crick rather than lift them to the stars, that's what it's all about. It's that step forward. So obviously the leaders are the leaders, and you're helping the leaders in many manifestations. But I like for the people staring at the stars, you smack them out of it and you say, hey, we got you. Calm down a second, check yourself. This is what you're going to do. I think that's a prayer and a godsend.
So it's a great point, Mark. The one of the features of the Brain Bucket is this. You can have, with the push of a single button, you can go private one-on-one with any of your students. So you can have a group session. You can talk 10, 15, 20. How big is your average class size that you're working with? How many kids are we talking about on average?
I keep it under 20, but sometimes the guidance pushed it. But some people have a crazy number, but under 20 is like doable.
Okay. So the Brain Bucket. Say that again, Damien.
I've had 28 at the start of the year in construction. That's unbelievable.
So if you've got all 20 and they're all listening to you at the same time, the machines can be running, activities can be moving, but you've got complete captive audience of that 20 people. They're hearing you with crystal clarity, just the same way you're hearing me right now, probably with a better audio quality than what you're hearing me with right now. If you want to go one-on-one, hey, Sam, come private with me. You and Sam, boop, you just push one button, and now it's just the two of you. And what? Everybody else in the room has got earmuffs on. They can't hear your private one-on-one coaching, right? So it gives you an opportunity for addressing exactly what Mark is talking about. You can call the kids out who are staring at the stars. That's a great way to put it. But you can definitely get in. When you put a brain in a bucket, you can get in their head, gentlemen. Trust me.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
I like that.
You can definitely get in their head. It was interesting before we had cameras on this because I couldn't always see my guys. But after about a month of hearing them constantly, I could tell when one of them was cruising Facebook. I could tell when one of them was around the client's house, around the corner, smoking a cigarette. I could tell, like, you get a feeling of like when people are paying attention to the conversation and when they've drifted out. Audio alone does a lot for that experience. And if you had an undistracted, completely captive environment in that essence, you could really take shop class to a whole different level. Not just with shop class, but teaching formats in any industry, you could really take to a whole different level.
I really like that. I like the analogy of the game replay and also the sharing. Maybe we could expand upon that, because I've always thought about how, we work in this environment where they're trying to do an assignment or do something, and then I'm the one grading it. I don't want to grade it. I want to be their coach. I want to imagine if the video of them making the thing went social media to their parents or to a contractor or to like a known approved advisory group, and they were graded based on what they're doing, and they could capture it, be like, okay, capture this section, and they explain it, and then it's an instant share. And this is the world of instant Instagram and all that stuff. And right. I think that this would be a very good tool for helping to turn the shop teacher into a coach rather than a judge. I don't want to be the judge. I want to be the coach. Maybe we could expand upon that. And you guys carry it for a minute. I got to actually go to the bathroom for a second.
It's a great discussion about changing your position into the coach, for sure. The thing that I found that I was trying to accomplish after a couple of months inside of just communicators with no cameras, when you've got your guys listening to you constantly, you're able to help train that the preemption. You're able to help them get to learn how to anticipate things. And that's really the skill set that every builder wants from their new young workforce in the field. They want somebody who knows how to anticipate the next move. They want somebody who has that instinct to preempt what comes next. But we don't have a great dialogue for like expressing that to the next generation. How it gets misconstrued and how it gets misunderstood is that the older generation is calling it a work ethic problem, when really it has nothing to do with the work ethic. You guys know from experience that this generation does want to work. And they want to work just as much as the generations that came before. But more importantly than they want to work, they want to succeed. They want to win. They don't want to be put in sink or swim situations. That doesn't make them weak or effeminate or less than capable. It just means that they have a different format of learning. And why? Because we put that expectation in their hands the moment we gave them a device. We give them the entirety of the world's knowledge in the palm of their hand, and then they become learners first and actors second. So we reverse that from the way that we all grew up, because we grew up having to learn from doing. They want to learn that information first and foremost in a preemptive format. So in order to develop those instincts for job site preemption, in order to develop that core skill set that we need the next generation to learn, rapidly learn, and adapt to so that they can succeed out in the field, we had to start asking ourselves, like, how are we going to bridge that gap? And my solution to that was, I have no idea, but I'm going to start filming everything, and then I'll see what happens. So that was the idea, to strap a camera to the brain bucket. The moment that we did that, it was just as much of an epiphany as putting the communicators through the rest of the team, because now we're gathering visual information that every one of us forgets through the course of the day. What I can tell you is this: if you wear the brain bucket for a day and you do actual work and you build something, you build half of a shed or you work on your lawnmower or whatever, if you watch that footage after the fact, give yourself 4 hours or more in the brain bucket, and then you'll never look at your own two hands the same way again. Never. There's so much that's happening right underneath our own noses that we just dismiss because it's just work. It just flows from us. It just feels natural. Well, to the next generation, it doesn't just flow. It doesn't just feel natural. Everybody's a first timer one time at everything. So you can capture that first time experience, and the real benefit that I would see for a teaching program is to then put together a nice little 5 or 6 minute sizzle reel at the end of the semester and show them doing the thing for the first time ever, and then compare that to their most recent recording and let them see the gravity of their own accomplishment and their own growth and development. That's what visual information from the job site can do for every construction company, for every trades class, for every certification program. Damien, that was a great mention for certifications earlier. If you're capturing that visual information, you're doing the work, possibly even earning an income at the same time, and also stacking up credible, verifiable experience to qualify for certification programs. Literally, it's a great multitasking opportunity across the board. And it takes very little effort. From my setup for Brain Buckets in the morning, 2 minutes. I got the entire process down to less than 2 minutes. So I unplug things from the chargers, I push 2 buttons, and everything is ready to go. The whole system comes online. At the end of the day, when I store these things, my biggest nuisance with it is replacing batteries throughout the day, just like you would with any power tool. But at the end of the day, I pull the cards out of the cameras, I plug them into those drives, I push 2 buttons on my Stream Deck, it performs a macro series and functions, takes all that information, stores it in 3 different places on 3 different hard drives for 3 different purposes. So that information is able to
wait, my head's gonna explode. Hold on. wait a minute.
I'd like to just give a brief reminder to the audience that we still haven't toured the trailer yet.
No, I understand. Wait, okay, slow down. I'm the last guy to slow you down, but just slow down a second. Hold on. This is amazing. Okay, I wrote down a couple of things. All right. Okay. First of all, I really like what you were saying about the pathway, giving the young kids a pathway, because you're right. If you just throw them in, I mean, I know I've heard sometimes that works out, but sometimes it doesn't, you know?
Right.
Like I've had students come back to me and tell me that they worked in dangerous conditions and they had to tough it out, and they actually got injured or burned or things happen with like chemistry and stuff, and they quit that life and they tried something else. It's not for them, you know?
Sure.
So you got to give kids a pathway, and you got to give them good information for sure.
Right.
The other thing I like about what you're talking about is the video command center and kind of how you're sort of centrally located. It might even jive. Well, I would ask you, I don't really know. Does this jive well with like, they play video games and they have a headset on, they talk to their friends over the internet. I haven't done it, but I know that people are very serious about it. Wouldn't this be a perfect fit?
Well, it's not a coincidence that we designed this bucket exactly for that specific format. I grew up in that intermediary where I got to play with an Atari when I was a kid, that graduated into Nintendo, that graduated into a PlayStation, that graduated into an Xbox. I burned out on it somewhere in my early 20s when I played Halo so much that, I toasted a few relationships because of it. And then after that, I just went to work. But something was there in that Halo era around the early 2000s where Microsoft did something brilliant. They created the first online gaming social network where people could wear a headset communicator and be connected with anybody in the world just by playing on a console game. Now, computer gamers had been doing that for years prior to that, but this was the first time that it was available wholesale to the general public just by owning a console. And it was revolutionary. It was amazing what happened socially after Microsoft established that network. When I looked at designing the Brain Bucket, I kept testing it on my crew, my poor guinea pigs. I put them through so much. But I kept testing it on the crew to kind of see where the sweet spot was and how things continued to develop and get better and better. And as a very patient test group, I discovered that it wasn't enough just to have visual communication. It also had to be comfortable. And so then the bucket was heavy and intrusive. And so then the seasons blended into early March, and here in Tennessee, that's already just way too hot for most people to handle. So then came the advent of the cooling fan. I don't know if you saw that every Brain Bucket has a cooling fan built into it. So I
like that.
And there's quite a bit of air movement that comes out of that thing. So it keeps everybody cool and comfortable. And then we just kind of keep stacking features on top of it afterwards. But then when the test group went away and we figured out that there was a lot of merit to that captive learning environment, The question for me really became, what can we do with the visual information that's coming from this? Most people would think, oh, you got great marketing material. How in the world you could just show people what your work looks like? Most minds stop right there, because that's where consumerism again has created that dogmatic blockade where people stop having ideas based on what will or will not fit into our economic zeitgeist. So if we stretch just beyond that for a minute, we can look at that information and say, what can we learn about construction that we weren't seeing before? What can we learn about process that we weren't seeing before? And so all you really have to do is watch the footage. Now, here's the crazy part. If I work 10 hours in a day, there's no part of me humanly that wants to sit and watch me work for another 10 hours of that day.
Right.
So it's hard to process all of that information. But if you put this stuff on fast forward, you might see some recurring themes. What you'll really notice about your job site is that one thing that you put down that one place because you had to put it down, you'll end up walking around that obstacle listen to me, all day long. You'll walk around that stupid one thing all day long, and it will absolutely kick your butt all day long. And it's out of sight and it's out of mind, but you see it and you walk around it. When you start to put that kind of thing on camera, it changes the way that you think about setting up future job sites. It helps you evolve your process just by looking back on your own build footage. For better or for worse, you see the good, you see the bad, you definitely see the ugly. There's a reason why the camera's pointed forward and not on me, right? Because I see enough of the ugly in the work. So we're trying to keep the focus on those types of obstacles and those kinds of things we can work around. They're pointed. It's a good point, Mark. Those cameras are pointed toward the tactile working space. So within 1 to 5 feet in front of you is where the focus is laid. So exactly right. So when the kids look back on this footage after the fact, Mark, they are seeing their sphere of experience. They're not seeing this huge wide field of vision or whatever. They're not seeing a fisheye. They're seeing their own two hands and what they did and what they produced with it. What we've read out of that data so far is we've read nonsense, repetitive maneuvers that we constantly have to do over and over and over and over and over again. I'll show you one thing. The heads of my hammers are all painted this same company blue. This company blue for the tool hacker is not a coincidence. These cameras have a software program that a friend of mine developed that are triggered to file a data point every time this color comes into the camera's field of view.
I can't handle this. It's too much.
No, hang on. Hold on to your hat. You might need to put your own head in a brain bucket so it doesn't explode.
This is amazing.
Those cameras also read QR codes. So when we are walking in and out of a customer's job site, we've got a QR code on the front door. So every time we cross their threshold of the front door, a data point pings that we record after the fact. We have gathered, there's a reason why we've got almost 30 terabytes of storage on board, because we're gathering the most massive conflagration of residential construction data in history. We are now a data authority for labor mechanics and metrics of what remodeling looks like, what new construction looks like. And here's the best benefit. Our system is designed to support any crew, any team of contractors, anywhere in the world, anywhere you can ship this giant trailer to. And if you need one for overseas, fine, I'll make one for them too. We could put this thing into a shipping container. We could make individual pods with this building set up. We can do anything to really gather data metrics across the board. And because look, if we're going to talk about our industry and the things that need to change, we can't have that conversation with any kind of credibility unless we have one critical pillar support column: data. We have to have data.
Yeah.
If we are trusting the spokesperson model to carry us into a healthier, more sustainable, more ecologically friendly future, we can't count on that. We have to have data that we can rely upon. Yeah. We have to have efficiency of job site execution data to compile along with that. If we're going to talk about how best to pay the next generation of skilled workers, to make wages that are interesting for the next generation, if we're going to entice more people to come to the trades because it pays better, data is our only salvation for getting there. On our current track, we are only going to become more delineated, more specialized, and more commoditized. unless we bring data to this equation, we can't possibly hope to force systemic reform or systematic evolution.
Wow. Okay.
You know,
Yeah. Go
Brant,
ahead, Matt.
and yeah, I mean, everything. Well, look how they do like record people for animation stuff. I mean, I would never in a million years thought it, but I mean, something that triggers, like you said, your blue hammer. I mean, you're right. You took the playbook out of what every professional sport does. They put all these balls and probes and everything else, and they want to see how you move down to the microfiber, and analyze it. And I mean, why not for us, right?
Sure.
If multi-billion-dollar athletic programs, NFL, MLB, NBA, are doing it, they find it as a major investment. Why would it not be for us, building billions of dollars worth of properties around the world every year?
I think for the people,
I agree.
I think for the workforce that makes the modern way of life possible, we shouldn't be struggling. We're heroes in my book, every last one of us. And if we're responsible for the roads that we drove on today, if we're responsible for the plumbing that flushed away our discretions, if we're responsible for the electric that's powering our Wi-Fi and the towers that got built to power this conversation, if we are the curators of the known modern environment, we should not be struggling to get paid. This data, this level of transparency, how's your head so far? You ready? Because I'm going to take you down the rabbit hole. All right.
Well,
the brain bucket.
Yeah, let's do it. But what I was blown away with, just so we don't lose the one thing that I thought was interesting, because I can't move this fast. This is like amazing.
Hey, Ron, do you think that Keanu Reeves is going to play Brant in the next movie, or Dwayne Johnson? I can't figure out which one.
Yeah, this is awesome. He's like, this is unbelievable. I feel like I'm listening to like a Neil deGrasse Tyson interview. This is science, man. This is cool.
Science. Yeah, it is science.
Hell yeah. And I love what's that?
It should be, right?
Yeah, and I like that. And it's not believe in science, it's science evidence, which is way more important than this.
Huge.
Yeah, exactly.
Huge.
So you said that when you go through, just one tech thing, and then we'll go back, is when you go through the door, the camera can see a QR code and it gives you a data point just by walking through. You don't have to scan it.
Correct. I walked in the front door of my client's house 17 times today.
I did not realize that was a thing. Okay.
Was that a door or the Matrix?
You decide.
Are you going to wear the red helmet or the blue helmet?
Nice. And then you're saying that the color of your tools gets picked up by the camera, and then it gives you a location point or something?
Yep. In fact, the whole trailer is colored that same color. So at any time you are inside of the workshop, it flags as data point. So we're tracking, there's one camera here that's dedicated. This guy right here. He is dedicated solely to, wait, hang on. I can't see if I can see. Oh yeah, here we go. So this one guy is a turret mount motion detector camera. And every time you walk in the trailer, it creates one independent file that's only 5 or 10 seconds long. And all it's really capturing is which tool you grabbed while you were in here. So we're able to then take that information and then quantify it to the build footage itself and say, okay, for the hour and a half that we worked tile processes that day, here's the 7 times we went to the trailer, here are the tools that we grabbed. We take that kind of information and we use it to build out kits, right? So that we can start to think about our tool set like a mechanic would. If you've got an alternator job on a GM truck, every mechanic instinctively, naturally knows, okay, he needs these 7 tools. He grabs them before the car is even on the lift. And he's got his tools lined up. And so when the car comes in, boom, boom, boom. Why is that? Because a mechanic's pay is tied to his labor efficiency, right? So the more work they get done in the less amount of time, the more they get paid. When you look at the contractor business model, it's the inverse of that. It's it's nonsense. I don't want to say it's nonsense because I don't want to be disrespectful. And also, I worked in that system for a long time before I did all of this. So I don't want to call it nonsense. It's just we haven't had the bandwidth available as builders to be able to explore alternative paths. So anybody, when they come to the market, Mark, I know you know this firsthand, when you come to the market with a new idea or a new product, you're immediately climbing up an icy slope simply just because people don't have the bandwidth to even imagine like the learning curve it would take to do something different, to step out of something that they've known. I tried to get a fellow that I've been working with for the last couple of months, a very sweet guy. He's about to retire. I tried to get him to wear the brain bucket today. That was a hard pass, you guys. It was a hard no. So it's not for everybody, you know. So there's definitely going to be that. There's always going to be, and I feel like the building industry in particular struggles with this to a degree that maybe other industries may not understand the depth of the struggle that we have here. But that resistance to just a new something, a new idea, a new product, a new process, even if it can help them, even if it can radically improve their way of life. That cabinet installer, I bought a couple of Viking arms for him, right? And I got the good Viking arms, the $200 a piece thing, right? The knockoffs are like $35.
Legit ones.
Right? You got to get the good ones.
Wait,
So
what's a Viking arm?
I'll show you. Hang on.
Yeah, they're pretty sweet. They're very simple and yeah.
It's a way to take out your enemy with one blow.
Goes up underneath your toe kick, right? Goes up underneath your cabinet toe kick, and then it's fully adjustable, and it has a very fine detail adjustment that will let you drop down that cabinet with just millimeters at a time. It's a brilliant invention. Truly. I don't know if these guys watch this stuff or if they'll ever see it, but whoever made the Viking arm, call me. We need to talk, right? Because this is a genius, truly a genius invention. And I always geek out over stuff like that when I see something that's really just somebody thought and went, yep. Real appreciation for that. So I brought the Viking arms to that job site, and I tried to influence him. I tried to say, look, I got these things for you. I want you to try them out, whatever. And it took me showing him on 3-4 different day occasions how much easier it makes the whole thing. But he wouldn't put it in his hand and try it for himself right out of the gate. I had to show him, and then I had to show him how much it was helping me. And then so it was like a real long hand-holding process. I'm convinced that if we press forward with this visual data gathering, and if we press forward with these metrics and this level and this depth of analytics, I'm convinced that with enough time, it will become undeniable. It will become its own science. It will become its own self-verifying means of metrics of inspiring change. And then after a while, what do you got? You've got two classes. You've got people who believe in science and people who choose not to, right? So we're going to let the data do the talking. I have nothing to sell in that vein. I have nothing to push or promote or to try to boost. What I want people to know about me is that I'm here to practice a true science. I'm here to let the data do the talking. And whatever it says, I'm merely the conduit for trying to let that data be as pure as possible with as little personal influence as possible to it. And the only way that I can stay religiously committed to that level of discipline is to be open source. I cannot be that way and try to, at the same time, hoard proprietary to myself. I must share this information. It's the only way that I will keep it pure, that I will keep it open, that I will be able to keep it honest and let the data really do the talking.
I love it. I think this is great. You know, it's interesting that you using the data, you use the data to make, like you said, kits. So let's say you see someone walk in the trailer and then they pick up a certain amount of tools and they go out, and then you think, okay, on this particular job site, we are going to have these kits available just like for a mechanic. I love that idea. That goes into like lean manufacturing and lean engineering and whatnot. You want to reduce it down to exactly what you need. The other thing I would say is I always say something funny about the believe in science. So I tell people, don't believe in science,
right?
Verify it. Yeah. Because science is the discipline of not believing. You want evidence. And but we've never had evidence before. It's always like some old guy who's like, listen, kid, trust me,
Trust me.
Yeah. And I've got a friend of mine in the car industry. He's got a piggy bank it's called the Trust Me Fund. And yeah, no, Trust Me Trust. Trust Me Trust.
That's perfect.
Yeah. And he says, if you tell a customer to trust me, then you owe money in the bucket.
That's great.
Because you can't say that to somebody. You got to use data and evidence. There is no trust me, but like you said, it's very difficult to translate the older generation, let the new kids coming up. But if the new kids coming up and they're looking at films just like they would with sports, and they're looking at data like, hey, listen, last week you went in the truck 100 times, but on that particular job, we found that you only need to be there 85 times. So there's like 15 times you went in there. What were you looking for? Let's look at the data. Oh, it's not your fault. It's actually because the tool was in the wrong spot. Maybe it's not labeled. So you make an improvement overall. And then the person understands that you're trying to make improvements, but so are they, so it's like a collective data driven system. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Great points. All of that. And then some. Yeah.
I'm just trying to catch up to you. These aren't my points.
there's a whole microcosm of discovery waiting there. We're just scratching the surface. The Brain Bucket system went live in July, and it was on shaky legs for the first couple of weeks. But now we have established, and we've been operating for the last 5 weeks successfully inside of the industry's first gapless capture system. And what that means is that when we push the cameras on, nothing stops them until we command them to stop. I'll show you how.
Yeah, okay, this is cool. Yeah.
All of those cameras.
Mark's going like this, like head explosion. Me too. Oh my God. What do you think of this, Duke?
Like everyone said, I'm mind blown here. How many brain buckets are out there?
4.
That's all you need.
So there's 4 brain buckets collecting all the data.
So there's 4 in my trailer that are active that we're working inside of every day. And at the Building Science Symposium last week, we gave away 4 more. So we gave 2 to the Northern Built Pro so that they can also participate in practicing one of the truest and most respectable sciences I've seen practiced out there. Randy Williams, if you're not familiar, follow the Northern Built Pro immediately. They are at the bleeding edge of home diagnostics. They are really something special. So follow them. They're operating daily inside the Brain Bucket now, and they're a father and son team. So there's going to be, I'm sure, some fun footage that comes from them. And the other 2 brain buckets, one went to Mariana out at EMU Building Science in Colorado, who do passive house certifications. And so other contractors from all over the world travel to Colorado to work inside of their program. Mark, I know either you're going now or you have gone recently. There's Northern Built. So those contractors will have an opportunity to see what it's like, the learning environment from inside the Brain Bucket up close. I really hope that it helps EMU to spread a great message and a necessary message that needs to be seen from the world in creative and engaging ways. And the other one went to a construction photography company in Kansas City that actually did the photography for the event. And they travel around to construction job sites and they film. How perfect is this? And it just worked this way just by the stroke of luck of a raffle. Couldn't ask for better results. But it went to that photography team who travels to construction job sites. And my guess is that they're going to put the workers from those job sites in that Brain Bucket and then use that as part of their marketing footage that they are gathering from those construction job sites. So hats off to them. I hope it does a wonderful service to all of those people. So there are 4 out in the wild at this particular moment in time. And I guess this is as good a segue as any, since we're in the process of blowing minds. This past week on the Tool Hacker, I created a follower contest where I was trying to choose a new company logo. And I foolishly thought that maybe I could stir up 1,000 followers if enough people called their friends. But this is not the way that Instagram works. So what I did was I put up for grabs a set of brain buckets for Matt and his student crew if I was able to get to 1,000 followers. I gained 33 followers, so nowhere near the threshold necessary to win the contest. But I'm the kind of guy who I make the rules mostly just so I can break the rules. And so I'm saying, screw the contest. I am preparing Matt's set of brain buckets for his class, no matter what. So,
no way!
We are going to get the Build, Learn, Teach crew inside of the brain bucket just as soon as humanly possible.
Yes.
So that Matt and his crew can enjoy these benefits and spread the message with the world. So the hope is, as a matter of fact, I guess I'll just fast forward to this. The hope is that we are able to put these brain buckets inside of every one of your classrooms.
Wow.
I have a proposal for how to make that happen. And
let me just give the audience a little context that Matt, has like a high school class that builds houses. I mean, everybody here knows that, but if someone were listening to this, this would be a great application for this situation. Whereas where you get to, like, you're managing, like, imagine how many kids you're managing on the site, and they build a house from scratch. There they are making they're putting the rock, I guess this is the T-stud, but they're loading it off the truck and whatnot. So it just gives people context that this would be an amazing experiment. I can't wait to see what happens. And I want to be able to tune in remotely. I wonder, that would be so cool if I could watch the crew.
That would be the goal.
These have streaming capabilities, so you would absolutely be able to stream live from these brain buckets. So we will look to Matt to be the pioneer for that particular push, that he can stream these from his classroom job sites.
Nice.
I'll have to tell the kids not to cuss so much.
Oh, yeah.
So
With great power.
Cuss right now because I got a wild proposal to throw out there, but it's time to do something a little wild and crazy. So if you don't mind, I'm going to turn on some lasers, all right, for this particular part. And I'm going to turn on some tunes because the proposal, in my opinion, that needs to be made is that we don't just need these brain buckets inside of one shop class. We need these brain buckets inside of, say it with me, every shop class, right? So in an effort to make that happen, I got pretty inspired when I met Mark Willey at the Building Science Symposium recently. One heck of a guy. One heck of a fellow who cares about the built environment in ways that I have not seen since the last time I looked in the mirror. Truly a kindred spirit. And I got to thinking that if we're able to find some creative way to fund getting Matt his own set of brain buckets, then I figure I could call out a challenge to the T-Stud folks. That's right, you heard me, Mark. Call out a challenge to the T-Stud folks because you seem like a guy who likes a challenge. So that challenge is this. For every high school trades building program that the T-Stud program donates T-Stud material to for their experimental builds, I will also match that donation by building a set of brain buckets for that group to be able to use. So, sorry to put you on the spot, Mark, but what do you say? Should we go toe for toe and make the built environment revolutionize before the world's eyes? Because the T-Stud, as seen through the eyes of the brain bucket from the first person point of view, could change the dialogue forever to show people how easy it could be to wire these houses, how easy it could be to plumb these houses. We should turn on the smoke machine or something and start to party about that, because I tend to think that if we were able to take the message to that degree and create that kind of goodness amongst not only our learning environment, but the built environment as a whole, if we could scale the message of T-Stud exponentially to the world, now we're talking about a revolution of thought. We're talking about a revolution of building, but also of resilience, energy efficiency, strength, durability, performance, all the things that the T-Stud naturally, organically brings to the built environment. It's not just about this trailer. It's not just about the inventions. It's not just about the party mode. What it's about is sending a new message to a new generation that there is a new idea that is floating out there. And that new idea is collaboration instead of competition, cooperation instead of living in fear about sharing your ideas. It's something about putting it out there, letting it all be seen, and the beauty that can come from sharing with people rather than trying to keep things to yourself. We are here to live these dreams out loud because I only have this time in my life to do this. I only have right here and right now. And I'm only young enough and able-bodied enough for a while. And every older craftsman out there can relate to this. And after my days of building are gone, I've either got a legacy that I have left behind me, or I have a whole lot of dumpsters that I filled and space that I occupied in a landfill. And I'm making my choice. I'm going to opt for efficiency. I'm going to opt for zero waste. I'm going to opt for low operational cost. I'm going to opt for as low upfront carbon as possible. I'm going to make these choices because if we do collectively and we get as many people on board as we can for that, then we actually stand, and this is only very early data talking, but we actually stand a chance of systemically steering the boat, of actually steering our trajectory out of danger. It's only early statistics that we've looked at, but if we stay on course with where we're at and we just expect codes to make the change, we're going to crash. We're going to hit the iceberg. We're not going to be able to steer away in time. It's going to take partnership. It's going to take calling out challenges to our newest friends. It's going to take elevation of our industry together in order to bring together the kind of collaboration that's necessary to steer us clear of danger. And I believe we can do it. I believe the shop environment and training these next generation is pivotal in catching them in time so that when they jump onto the job site, they look at their foreman and go, hold on a second, wait. You don't use brain buckets here? Hold on, wait, you want to yell at me all day instead? I'm sorry, I don't know if you know this or not, but Travis over at Catalyst Built is using the brain bucket system, and I can go work for him and get paid by the minute. So I'm going to rethink my choices here because you're offering me $16 an hour, whereas I can go over here and be valued to a much deeper degree. When we empower the next generation with that kind of tools, then you realize very quickly, this isn't about me and my fancy trailer. This isn't about me and my neat, quirky inventions. This is about something that's far greater. This is about a love affair with the future. And this is about trying to make sure that my 7-year-old's got something to look forward to. So I'll die trying, gentlemen. I won't stop. I will die trying to make sure that his future is secure. And God bless anybody who tries to get in my way.
Yeah, Brant.
Jesus, to be the man, you got to beat the man, right? Like you're walking down that road from U2 to Mick Jagger to you name the group. Man, it is a powerful message. It is so powerful. I don't. Is anyone else speechless? Like this is a delivery.
We've been doing the podcast for I've been doing it for 4 years, but we've been doing it in this format for at least a year and a half, 2 years. We've never had a monologue like that.
Dude, all I can think about is barber checks and he's so pissed that he's not on this one.
Oh my God, the guy he helped create this. Where is he?
How did we not get a hold of barber check to make sure he was on this one?
Man, well, we record him. So
well, have me back, gentlemen. Have me back again, and I'll be glad to take you down a rabbit hole of inventions and ideas and prototypes, and I'll show you as much grit as you want to see. If you want to see the things that are in the rough framing stage, okay. If you want to see the things that are in drywall stages, okay. If you want to see things that are spit and polished and shined, I got a few of those hanging around. But I'm happy to share, and I'm happy to share especially with people who have access to the younger generation. And I think T-Stud is primely positioned to have access to the younger generation. And I don't think it's coincidence that I see some of the happiest footage come out of the last year out of Matt and his program there I just don't think it's coincidence that we are seeing those things align and we are seeing those products align. So, Mark, I need you to answer me publicly. If we're going to go toe to toe with this and if we're going to match each other, because I want to see T-studs in every building program across the country. And I'll do everything I can to make brain buckets happen for those programs too.
I answer to a board, so publicly I can't answer. But what I will say is I can take what you say and I can magnify it in a different way without board approval, right? So I can say what I can do tonight because like Duke is watching me and I don't want to misspeak, right? Like he can hold his own. So what I will do is everyone I speak to educate, regardless of being part of a school, a trades or college or municipal program, even the private sector and the local builder, what I'll say is this is a product that we feel will magnify your results and produce you more income. So I'll bring forward your product to all of the folks that I educate, and I'll wait for the board approval to bring it forward on the school level. So the reach will be farther. And because of your idea and creating that farther reach, handing it to the board will turn around and have the profits available to help more schools. It's a short-term answer, but I think it's a long-term answer to your brilliant, crafty idea. You're a hard guy to keep up with. Like you create 15 different levels and we were expecting level 2 or 4. So, you know, not everyone could play the keyboard, the synthesizer, change a tire, and build a rocket, right? Not everyone.
I changed the tire a half hour before this podcast started tonight.
Oh my God.
Great. It's great.
Wow, dude, I love the energy, man.
The important thing is, did you get that on camera, Brant?
I don't know. However, we're recording this podcast. I hope it's a message that you can scale.
Oh, absolutely.
Dude,
I
no, this
want to see the learning environment improve. I want to see the daily way of life change, not just for builders, but more importantly, and it just as critically for educators. I want to see these are early technologies. These things are clunky. They're heavy. They're obnoxious. There's some fatigue that comes from wearing them right now. I need to scale them down. I need to make them more streamlined. But we're only on prototype number 9. How many of you, the very first house that you built was it just knocked the ball out of the park the first time? You know, you get better with these.
Ron's got your next task there, Brant.
What is?
Ron just put on your next helmet, your next mask, your next challenge.
I know it. I'm wicked excited about the welding version of this. The welding version of this is crucial. When you think about the fan placement for a welding helmet, you're definitely now making a direct impact to the health of the vapors that are breathed. And if you create a pressure positive environment behind that helmet, then you can dispel and push away those fumes from the user. And there it is. There's the aha moment. If you guys are looking for a poster child for the aha moment, it just happened in the lower middle of the screen. Yeah, so the fumes are a big deal when it comes to welding, right? The same thing happens with the brain bucket. When you're cutting, everything is in front of you, right? It's all on the front side of your face, and that's where all the dust and debris is. The fan is on the back side of the helmet. So it's taking the cleanest available air locally, and it's putting it inside the helmet. And if you've got your face shield down while you're cutting, then it's blowing the debris and dust away from your face instead of making it accessible to where you're used to breathing it. So it can also help improve the health of the user as well.
Yeah.
All of these things
inspired.
They're mostly just inspired because of what I said during my ridiculous laser infused soliloquy, being that we've only got these years of usefulness, right? Mm-hmm. And what happens after these years of usefulness have escaped us? We have to do something different with our bodies physically because we can't keep up with the demanding pace the job site requires. We're creating a system for the aging out worker. The average age of the skilled craftsman is 60 years old. 60. Anytime you see an entire industry move past the early 40s mark for their median age, there's danger on the horizon. We must course correct. So rather than try to find millions of new skilled recruits to fill the worker ranks, we're trying to create user systems that can coach. We're trying to create a command center. And in fact, we did our very best to try and make it look appealing. Look how comfortable this chair is. If you plug it into that power cord, it's got a back massager built into it. So I want to say to the older craftsmen that are out there and are thinking about retiring out, I want to say to them, come inspire people in a comfortable environment. Come teach people, come scale your message. You can coach a crew from that center. Those cameras will broadcast to that TV, and your master builder can see everything. Imagine what it would mean if we had Mike Girton directing 10, 15, 20 different crews across the United States, all through Wi-Fi, because they could call him in, they could call upon him at any point in time. The Brain Bucket could connect that kind of intelligence, could connect that kind of, and think about what that could do for the T-Stud company for having a proprietary framing product. The main resistance to systems built is what? Tech support, right? So if you could scale the experience of tech support in the field so that your users of your product could be able to connect live and see hands-on. Mark, we get your brain in one of these buckets, and then you're able to visually see from the user's perspective, okay, this is what's happened wrong here. You need to change the detail. It needs to flash this way. It needs to look over here. All of those questions can be answered very, very simply if you're be able to connect the user to that experience.
Well, and here's one, Brant. Talk about connectivity. Okay, so you got the technician doing the job. You got the architect watching the details. You got the tech support of the product. So, you know, we're putting Sega tape down or something, let's say, for our air sealing. We got my kids putting that down. We got Etienne sitting there watching from Sega. We got Steve Basic sitting there watching as the architect, make sure. They're all sitting there talking to a high school kid. Hey, you need to make sure, you know, fold that tape back like that. I'll make that job easier. All right, good job. Steve can be like, hey, don't forget this tricky detail we had over in this, you know, cantilever spot. Instantaneous.
And they didn't have to travel and add to the carbon footprint to do it.
Yep, did it all from the comfortable back massaging chair.
When you think about
and then the whole time I can sit in my mobile classroom, watch it all on the big screen and with my feet kicked up and collect my teacher salary paycheck till I'm
take
90.
it a step further. Take it a step even further, Matt. Take it a step further and take that visual experience, that scenario you just described. Now you have recorded it to video. Now it becomes part of a data repository that can be called upon in future similar situations. That right there, that's what we're trying to build.
Yeah.
We're trying to build access to a universal data repository that the whole of construction or mechanics or whatever industry you want is able to then call that information back. Because what do you have to do? If somebody doesn't know how to do something on a job site, what has to happen? Production stops while one guy fiddles on his phone and watches YouTube, right? Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're rolling your head. You're rolling your eyes, right? It's constant. It's constant. The minute you put your phone in your hand, the work stops. The Brain Bucket allows you to continue forward, making forward progress, keeping your crew connected, keeping things on task while you are able to call up the information. That is why we did this crazy elaborate data center for this trailer, so that the operator from this position can command through this microphone to the workers and connect inside the Brain Bucket. We can call up visual information on our TV or on the internet or whatever, and we can call up that information or whatever. We can call up that procedure, or we can call up that tool, and we can say, hey, watch this. And we can send this information either to the user's cell phone. We're working on a visor right now that has a small LCD screen overlay. So you flip the visor down and they're actually able to see it in their left eye.
Whoa.
I know. So things are getting high tech for a construction operation here. So we're reaching far
cool.
outside of our purview. And there's some real opportunities there. But when you're able to call upon that training information and then give that visual information to the worker, you can say, oh, this is how you turn that squeegee machine on. That's how you can do this.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh, by the way, Brant invented that bucket there that squeegees out those sponges for tile work.
Right. The bucket
Wait,
all.
what?
Right? All that mess, all that strain, all that stress, bucket all, baby. That's what that is. Bucket all.
That's your invention as well?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Now let's talk about the sharing of ideas and open source. So, I'm working on a project, and I'm sure a lot of people are working on ideas and whatnot. But part of you thinks like, oh, I don't want to put it out there yet because you want to get a chance to like patent it or at least be first to market or whatever. What would you say to like a person like me or somebody, because I'm holding back right now on something, but what would you say to like, how did you break out of that and how did you get to the open source idea? Because I know that it does work. I see that a lot of companies do it and it's very successful because it builds community. What would you say about that?
I have to give a big shout out to Travis Brungart at Catalyst Built Construction in Kansas City. This guy he's who I would call a hero of the built environment. He is, this man inspired me. I was not much for social media 2 years ago. I'd burned out on a lot of it. And in 2017, I deleted my Facebook and I just went dark from social media. Don't miss most of it. But in January of last year, this is right before COVID hit, I decided I was going to do a small social experiment. And I started an Instagram account called the Wild Hair Workshop. And the point of the workshop was it was a social experiment to see how the built community handles ideas. And inspired by Travis and his persona, and many of you know and are already fans, and I don't mean to fan crush because he'll be embarrassed and he's too humble to accept any praise ever.
Sorry, get me up to speed. Who is this?
Travis Brungart.
So Travis Brungart runs Catalyst Construction in Kansas City. You should follow them on Instagram right away. They are these are people to watch. If you're looking for a barometer of who is setting the bar for class and panache in our industry, by far and away, Travis and Joe Cook do a great job of that.
And trying to push
he inspired
programs like mine into other schools and
right.
locally for him. Yeah,
he's done a great. He's done a great job. Yes, and he was pivotal in organizing the last of the 2 Midwest Building Science symposiums
and the last 2 wall assembly competitions.
Right.
That Matt was a part of year 1, a belt winner, in fact, and the second year was a high school student winner. Like this guy, you have a right to bring up like the level of energy he brings forth for because he's, you mentioned earlier, Brant, a hero. He is a superhero.
No doubt. Without a doubt. And so a guy like me, I look up to people like Travis. I look up to people like Matt, and that's not pandering. It just is what it is. These guys are heroes to me. And so when I had these inventions that I was ostensibly sitting on, they were in development. I started the Wild Hair Workshop to just kind of probe at the building community and see how ideas move through that network. And Travis was central toward encouraging me to be open source. Not in any direct fashion whatsoever. He never said, hey, you should be open source. But the way in which he conducts himself publicly, the way in which he inspires hope for change with other people, I think has inspired me to be much more open. So if there's anyone that I would give direct name mention credit to, yeah, that fella right there. Follow. And he will teach you how to lead if you follow. That's really the truth about a guy like Travis. He'll teach you how to lead. A great example. So end of the man crush gushing on Travis, but he's solely responsible, or highly responsible rather, for my inspirations to want to share these ideas. So what I would say to others is I would say this: your prototypes will not be perfect. Never. No one, not any inventor ever, nails it on prototype number one. It just doesn't happen. It's not how it works. The first prototype is supposed to be a cataclysmic series of massive failures. The second prototype is also supposed to be a sad collision of failures. The third prototype, if you're smart and if you're diligent, is less clunky, less failure prone. If you do the same thing about 10 times, you'll start to get somewhere. The Brain Bucket's currently in version number 9. The series that we're going to make for Matt are version 10.0, and all I can tell you, and I've already told you enough surprises tonight, all I can tell you is 10.0, you just got to hang on, baby. You better buckle in, because 10.0 is going to take you places, Matt. It's going to be something for your class. It'll be something special.
Nice.
But having said that, 11.0, I'm sorry preemptively to you, Matt. 11.0, which is going to go to Nick and his crew, is just going to be light years ahead of 10.0. Because as we keep doing these things, our ideas get better for them, right? As we keep doing these things and keep trying. So that's what I would say to the person who is holding on to an idea. I would first say, don't stop, because whether it's pretty or not, it's a work in progress. No house is finished when it's just a frame. It needs a roof, it needs finished surfaces, it needs many people to get involved. The average house takes between 45 and 60 bodies from start to finish. So when you think about the massive collaboration that just a single home can be, why think that your one idea has to be just one person? Just one person to do all of that? To then do the prototyping and the building, and then the experimenting, and then the testing, and then the marketing piece of it, and then the branding, and then it's like, how much of this do you have to do by yourself just because you got an idea to yourself? You start to realize very quickly that this entire system is meant to keep your idea small, and is meant to keep you thinking small. I'm here to tell everybody who has an idea, if they think it's worthwhile, share it. Bring it forward, not because of competition, but because you have the opportunity to beat the system if you share. If you keep it small, that's the way the system is currently built. It's built to keep it small. It's built to keep you broke and trying. 85% of the patent system profits from the working poor. It's not from rich people with good ideas. It's from guys like us who are trying to scrap something together. Work through your idea. Keep pressing on with your prototype. It's going to burn you into the late night hours, but keep going. Share your ideas with friends who you trust. Collaborate inside of a network. Here's what I will tell any inventor who's out there who's listening or who wants to do something. This is a mobile prototype laboratory, okay? We're fully tooled for every single construction trade. It doesn't matter if it's electrical. It doesn't matter if it's plumbing. It doesn't matter if you've got an idea to build a Dubus or a Flonison or a doodad or a whatnot. You need that one screw that does that one thing that has that one head on it. We've got it. You need that one torch that has the one flame that has the one focus bit on it. We got it. You need that one set of scissors that only has that one serrated edge to do the one thing that cuts the vinyl sticker just right. Baby, we got it. So I would say this, if there's somebody out there who has that idea and is merely looking for some reciprocity, is looking for some camaraderie, is looking for some teamwork, is looking for some support, bring your ideas to me. Because I'm not going to steal them, for one, because I'm about giving things away. And I love to give my ideas away to you in a collaboration. I had a privilege, I'll tell you a short story about that. I had a privilege a couple of months ago to help out a fellow who had this crazy, harebrained idea. He came to me and said, I feel compelled to try and fix world hunger. And I'm thinking, like, already right out of the gate, this is a space cadet, right? Like, do you have any idea what the massive amount of problem is? It turns out that he does. It turns out that he'd been doing private research for almost 15 years about the food supply chain in some of these third world countries. Third world's an outdated term. Forgive me for just using it for relevance, but he has an idea about a food dehydration system. And he brought that idea to me and he said, here's what I'm doing. And he had a fire stack and a smoke thing. And he was building this fire and then trying to control the temperature down to like 160 degrees. And I said, can I ask you just a basic question? Why is starting with thousands of degrees and trying to dial it down to hundreds of degrees? Why don't you start with just a few hundred degrees and then use less energy in the process? And so I helped him think differently, and I used my construction training. We designed a hydronic system, a hydronic food dehydrator, basically. So it works off grid. It's solar powered now. It uses no fuels. It uses no energy. It doesn't even burn wood anymore. So whereas he was trying to be green anyway by burning wood, he doesn't even have to burn wood anymore. He was like, this is fantastic. He came back to me 3 weeks later, so excited. He built the first prototype and it succeeded. Since that time, he built 4 prototypes, and this has only been a couple of months. But this invention worked. His design, the spin he took on my advice worked. And he says to me, he says, what do you want for this? What do I owe you for this? And I said, man, I've got a great story to tell. There's nothing further that I need than that. There's nothing further that I need than that. Mark, there's going to be ways for us to collaborate in the future. It may not be with this brain bucket and T-stud in the high schools program, but there's going to be many ways for us to collaborate in the future. I want you to know you're not my competition. You're my compatriot. Okay. So for any public beef that people thought that I had with the T-stud guy, it's over. That's all a misnomer. I got no beef with anybody. I don't have beef with Basic. I don't have beef with anybody. What I do have beef with are people inside the building science community and other social communities using bandwagon politics to influence change. We need to be thinking in the mindset of data and facts. We need to not be looking to people and popularity. We need to be looking to science. And we need to be looking for ways to practice as true a science as we can possibly muster, because we're running out of time for this belief-based system. We're running out of time for it. Period.
Good. I love it. Well said.
That's the end of my rant on that subject. So
This is awesome. I gotta tell you, you're really it's not just that you blew our minds with this thing and inspired us, but you're also touching a chord with me as far as like I'm holding back on an invention I have, and I really should just put it out there. But also, I have a friend of mine that has this really amazing it's like a generator that runs on any fuel, and he's had this thing patented and he's hanging on to it. It's been like 10 years and it hasn't released it. He's always tweaking it, and he's never released it. I've been sitting on this thing for like a year. It's almost done. The prototype's almost done, but it's true. Like, you kind of lose the wind when you're not building the community and bouncing ideas back and forth. Like right away, the brain bucket, Matt told me about it. I said, Matt, get this guy to do something with the welding. I want to talk to my students while they're welding. And then, that'll be in the future maybe. And I don't want to invent that. That's not what I'm doing, but I would help for free, whatever you want, whatever you need from me. Even
the same goes for you, for your own invention. I'm happy to help you for free. Together we elevate, right?
Nice.
You bring money and you bring politics into that equation, and it all gets lost in the wash. Yeah. Because pretty soon, here's the trouble of sharing your ideas with a non-inventive person. Okay, and I've barked up this tree a time or 20. But here's the problem with sharing your idea with a non-inventive person. They'll give you an uncertified analysis of what they think its viability is or isn't, and they don't have any way to relate to your vision whatsoever. Can you imagine Brian Iverson trying to talk to people about T-stud 15 years ago? It's just be like he's probably used to people looking to him like he's got 3 heads. It's such a far out idea right out of the gate that most people are just like, there's no way. There's no way. Don't let anybody, if there's anything motivational I can say at all, don't let anybody look at your idea and then tell you what for about it. That can take a walk, man. Mm-hmm. Ideas they're all just balls of clay. And the more we embrace our ideas, the more we get in touch with our childhood. Remember, we didn't have to have everything we created as kids. Didn't have to be a fridge, right? But as adults, we don't want to put anything out there to the world that can't be fridge worthy, right? The very first video, and it's funny because it's bittersweet for me, because the pictures that you guys posted of the brain bucket are of the 4th prototype, right? And they are rotten. There's no guard on the fan. It's like you could stick a hot dog in there and it's like you're putting it in a food processor, you know? So people who look at that video are like, this thing's a piece of crap. Are you kidding me? Who would buy this junk? It's got a hose clamp holding the battery on the back of the helmet, right? And
I love it. It's so funny.
I insisted on this. I insisted on making a kick-ass video for it with some great music to it so that I could just take that idea and go, you know what? The chains are off. I'm taking the chains off right now. I'm ripping the chains off me, in fact, because whether it's a prototype and it's janky or it's funky or it's unfinished or not, I'm still going to put it out there just to see who says what. Just to see
I like that.
how the
That's
construction community handles an idea. Now, everybody can't do that with their inventions. There's a lot of risk associated with that, and everybody can't take some, like it had been reckless for something like the T-stud nature for them to put that idea out publicly before it was ready. Everything's not meant for open source, but most of the ideas that are out there, the rest of the world, this idea that somebody's going to see it, somebody's going to steal it, and then they'll be printing it in China in no time. It's like, you have any idea how much testing has to go into something before it's ever even near ready for that? Like people want to steal finished products. They don't want to steal rough ideas. Nobody walks up to a rough framed house and goes, I think I'm going to go yank all the 2x4s out of that. It's like we don't take things that are in rough stages and go, oh yeah, I'll be the one to devote my life and my after hours, and I'll take time away from my family to do all of that. There's not a whole lot of people out there doing that. So you might as well share your ideas with people who care, who can help you elevate, or who can connect you to pieces of the puzzle, because you can't possibly know everybody that you need to know in order to make the connections you need to make any kind of success happen. You got to know a lot of people. You got to be able to connect with those people, and you got to be able to make special memories with those people. And the most special memories we can make as a community is in the sharing of our ideas.
Wow, this is so cool. I love it, man. This is good. I mean, geez, I don't even know if we can continue this podcast after this. It's like, what guest is going to follow this? Brant. No, you got energy, man. You got inspiration. You've touched the chord with everybody in here, and I can't wait to share this video with a lot of my shop teacher friends. You know, kind of with the Shop Class podcast, it's not like a super popular podcast, but it does have a good group, and it's nice that you could send these interviews out to people who you think would be think it'd be useful. Like we interviewed an alumni who she's a biomedical engineer now. And I specifically sent it to my supervisor who worked very closely with her and some of the teachers that had worked with her on robotics. And they're like, oh, no way. Really? Like an interview with her. They love it. So, you know, I think that someone watching this and getting a chance to see how inspiring that was, or if someone in here, once we upload the video, send it out. Brant, I really appreciate that you brought 150,000%. And I know that's not easy to do. It might, you probably make it look easy, but I understand. Like, I'm just thankful that you did this, because we can take this and we can inspire like a ton of shop teachers. And also it's a really good idea. Like it's absolutely what's needed. Like, especially just on a practical level during COVID, they had us teach in hybrid. So I was looking at a screen with kids while I had kids on the other side of the room welding. So I grabbed another laptop and I threw it, no matter if it got damaged or not, and I threw it on the shelf next to where they're welding so I could watch them while I had the screen and while I had somebody else. And what you realize is you do need that command. You don't have to do it, but the command center gives you an advantage. But imagine you had data coming from that as well. And then you're on the job site. Oh my God. It's like amazing. Very cool stuff you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. We're as far as commercialization is concerned at the moment, we are charging by the minute for our contracting services. Our data is moving at such a speed now that we are able to capture build footage as it occurs live on the job site. Our customers only pay for what they can see. So they only pay for captured footage. And that's my billing cycle. When I'm done at the end of the day, my invoices take about 4 minutes to write. I simply put the memory card into the computer. I look at how many video files are there. and I fast forward or I just open up the video file one at a time, say there's 12 files for the day, and I can see right then and there, okay, this is a half hour, okay, this one's 15 minutes, okay, this one's 28 minutes. I can add it up very, very quickly, and that counts to how many minutes that I caught on camera. The point is, if you're going to push the button and you're going to do the camera, you are ready to work. That's when you should get paid. So there's a huge marketing potential for this tool to be used for the per minute contractor. And currently that's a pay rate and a scale that we do not have access to in the construction industry. When you look at the bar of entry for what we are requiring a general contractor to do, we are asking for a ton of licensure and guarantees that they are going to be able to pay back whatever kind of money that they borrow. Why is that? Because general contractors are taking huge deposits up front. And why do they do that? Because there's a trust issue with customers. There's a trust issue with contractors. And the state mandates and regulates how much money you can take up front for a construction project. I don't take any deposit up front, but I do get paid every day. Every day. I invoice at the end of the day, I send that email out, and somebody whips out their credit card every day I work, and they swipe it through on my PayPal or my website or whatever, and I'm able to process that in about 4 minutes at the end of the day. When you put that kind of tool into the contractor public's hand, now you create a layer of transparency that real good builders out there, builders like Travis, they want. They want that kind of transparency in their practice because they're not ashamed of it. They want what they do to be seen and valued not only by the customer, but by the world. And for those good contractors out there who are interested in that, holler at your boy about one of these work trailers, because this is specially designed and optimized to work inside of that footprint and that setup. This system has been optimized down to the nth detail, including which tools we decided go in that basket and why. Which tools get placed where, why it is that we put our scissors there. All of this has been chosen, why it is that we have redundant labels for these things so that things don't get lost along the way. All of these pieces of the puzzle we have sorted out by following data. The more of us who follow data, the faster this industry will evolve. The faster people will learn naturally to organically gravitate toward technologies like the T-Stud. The more we can have open dialogue with the builder public at whole, who single-handedly hold the biggest lever on our environmental consumption of carbon, on our cutting down of trees, on our production of solid waste. Construction is responsible for almost 40% of the world's solid waste. For every trash can you've ever put at the curb, ever, the construction industry has put 2 more right next to it that you never see. So when you think about those metrics as a whole, you very quickly make a very simple deduction that you don't have to be a genius to hack out. It's either we hack these tools and we hack this industry and we hack the planet, or else.
Wow.
And that's it.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Brant, we're going to leave it there. I think this was a slam dunk and then a loop-de-loop and then a grand slam. And then what's the hat trick with the 3? It was every sport. We touched every sport, man.
And finish it off.
The time for tactical grade construction is here, and it's available to anyone who wants it. Just get at me.
Tactical grade construction. You know, it's funny. I even think about my friend who has a tree company, and they're on like 2 sides of the house, operating a crane, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to send this interview at him. That absolutely. I think there's a very shareable situation here. I think this is great.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
I was thinking about the landscaper who has a bunch of crews. You know, he can watch the crews from his massaging chair, but still keep in contact with the weed whacker, the hedge trimmer, the lawn cutter, the crew that's, part of the robotic form of the landscapers. And it's awesome that it's evolving like that. And I'll give you guys credit. I started the podcast just to hang out to see what the other teachers are doing. And I got introduced to these building sciences, and it just blows my mind. You can get a master's degree in, building science, and it's awesome, Matt, that you've done that. And then being introduced to Mark with this the T stud was awesome. I told my dad about it. He's an old contractor. But I just want to, get anyone who's ever said anything about a dumb shop teacher needs to watch this episode.
Yeah.
You
It
guys,
will change their mind.
you guys are working at the apex of the most critical juncture in not only our country's future, but in our planet's future. If this next generation, if this next crop of builders does not enter the marketplace naturally thinking about technologies like the T-stud, if they don't naturally start thinking about ways to lower embodied energy and operational energy in our structures, I like being an optimistic guy, but if we don't turn the ship, we're doomed.
Yeah.
We've got to turn the ship, and you guys stand at the very precipice. You are the very tip of the spear of being able to make a lasting impression upon the next generation for that call to action, because we've absolutely got to reduce carbon in every way, shape, and form possible, absolutely across the board. These kids get it, and they don't want to be part of a wasteful industry. They don't want to be part of a contractor who doesn't care what goes in the dumpster. And so to know that you guys are at the helm and that you have an opportunity to impact that message and that outcome right up front, the work you do is critically important. I would welcome anyone to go toe to toe with me if they have anything negative to say about our shop teachers.
All right. Yeah. It's funny because it's, when it comes to especially when it comes to the carbon, it's hard to regulate this type of thing. It's more about inspiration of getting people more interested in wanting to win, not just being told by, a regulation, so when it comes to the electric cars, they tried to regulate that in the 90s and it didn't really work out that well. If you've ever seen Who Killed the Electric Car, there's a lot of people to blame in that one. Right. But when they finally built a car that was compelling, that people want, that's not just an electric car, but it's also a better car. But now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a better car in every scenario. And also I like both. I'm into pistons and gasoline and whatnot, but regulation is not what did it.
Right.
It was tech and worrying about whether, how to impress the customer and how to do the best job possible. And now they got the data to prove it and whatnot. And also, I know there's a debate about whether an electric car is better. You're just moving the tailpipe. But in general, the car itself is more efficient. It was just the batteries holding everything back, But that's not like a debate. I'm just saying it's not really regulation that does it. It's inspiration. And, and then the same with when I inherited auto shop, I teach lawnmowers and I teach them about how to fix stuff and whatnot, but I also introduced them to the electric car. And from that, I have two students that came out from that program. And one of them works at Tesla and one of them now works at Proterra, which is the electric bus company. And so, you got to give these people a pathway. It's not just fixing the irony. The funniest thing is, if you're fixing brake pads, you're just teaching people how to change 8-track players or something like that. Because the new trucks and new electric cars, they don't even use brake pads as much, right? Because you have regenerative braking. So imagine the head explosion that would happen to an older generation saying, hey, in the future, by the way, you're not going to use the brakes that much. They're going to be like, get out of here. How are you going to stop? Well, there's this thing called the electric motor, and you're going to use it as a generator to recharge the batteries. They're going to be like, what are you even talking about? I remember my supervisor, we were getting a lesson on fuel injection and the pulse width and everything. And he walked out of the meeting because he didn't want to hear it because he's a carburetor guy. Right. Some of these guys don't want to hear it. And I get it. But you got to introduce it at least to the new kids, and right. We're going past fuel injection now. We're getting into electrics. It's mind blowing. So you got to give these kids a chance. I absolutely agree. You're not just going to be fixing brake pads and, hammering, studs into the wall. What if the stud itself helped with the energy isolation? T-stud, man. Like, oh my God, it's a thermal brake. And by the way, I stole that. I didn't know what thermal brake was. I'm like Duke. I'm so impressed by the building trade that Matt has brought into this podcast. I love being influenced by that industry. I think there's a lot of energy in that industry. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are like excited, which is super cool. And I think that happened with robotics. Now it's happening with building trades. I wonder what the next industry coming up is going to have super game-changing things happening, you know? Very cool.
Construction is.
Yeah.
We're claiming it right now tonight. Construction is no longer on the precipice of a revolution. The revolution is now.
All right. Brant, you're the best. Dude, this is amazing. All right, we're gonna hit the end button on the record, and I appreciate everybody being here. We usually hang out for a minute or so afterwards. So Brant Taylor, thanks so much, and they should follow you and find out what you're doing. The Tool Hacker is his
Tool Hacker.
Instagram.
Yep. Toolhacker.com coming next week. Yep. Our website's going live next week, and we're going to have all kinds of great stuff. So definitely follow us there. Tool Hacker on Instagram.
Okay. Thanks a lot. All right. Talk to everybody soon. And you guys stick around, but we're just going to end recording. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.